We all think we know the story of the American West. It's a tale of brave pioneers, wide open spaces, and taming a wild frontier. But what if that story isn't the whole story? Today, we're going to retell the history of the American frontier not as a beginning, but as a massive collision of two worlds. So let's just start with a question that kind of flips the whole thing on its head. What if the land we were taught was an untamed wilderness, was in fact already someone's home? I mean, fully inhabited. Answering that one question is really the key to understanding everything we're about to explore. All right, so before we can even get into the whole idea of expansion, we have to understand the world that was already there. This wasn't some empty space just waiting for a story to happen to it. It was a continent with a story thousands of years in the making. This slide just lays it out so clearly. You have two completely different ways of seeing the exact same land. For settlers looking west, it was the Great American Desert, a blank canvas, a place to write their destiny. But for the people who actually lived there, it was a sacred geography, a homeland filled with meaning, history, and connection. It's the perfect example of two worlds looking at the same piece of earth and seeing entirely different realities. And let's be super clear, this land was far from empty. It was the established territory of so many sovereign nations: the Sioux, the Comanche, the Nez Perce. And that's just scratching the surface. These are just a few of the many peoples whose entire lives, cultures, and histories were woven into the very fabric of those plains and mountains that settlers saw as just vacant. So the arrival of settlers from the east, it wasn't the start of a new story. It was the dramatic and, often violent interruption of a very, very old one. So what was the idea, the engine that powered this whole collision? Well, that engine had a name: Manifest Destiny. And this wasn't just some government policy. It was a powerful, almost religious belief. It was the idea that the United States had a divine right to expand from coast to coast. It was seen as not just justified, but inevitable, like it was meant to be. And that really gets us to the core of this whole thing. The American frontier wasn't about discovery. It was about collision. A collision of cultures, of economies, of spiritual beliefs, and, maybe most importantly, a collision between two fundamentally different ideas about what land is. Now, this collision wasn't just an idea floating around, right? It was powered by technology. And while these new inventions were seen as these amazing tools of progress, for the people already living there, they became something else entirely. They became engines of displacement on a massive scale. Three key innovations really changed the game. First up, you've got the steel plow. This thing was powerful enough to just rip through the ancient sod of the Great Plains and turn it into farmland. Then came the telegraph, which basically shrank the continent overnight, right? It allowed for instant communication and control. And finally, the big one, the Transcontinental Railroad. This thing was like an iron artery, pumping settlers and supplies west at a speed that was just unimaginable before. I love this quote from historian Dr. Eliza Vance because it just captures the mental shift perfectly. The wild was being indexed, fenced with barbed wire, and sold by the acre. In other words, a living, breathing, sacred geography was being chopped up, packaged, and turned into a map, into real estate. But this kind of transformation, it comes with a price, a really staggering, quantifiable cost. So to really understand what was gained by the nation, we have to be honest about what and who was lost along the way. I want you to just think about this number for a second. 20 million. That was the estimated population of the American bison, the buffalo, back around 1850. They weren't just animals. They were the absolute lifeblood of the Plains Indians, providing everything from food to shelter to spiritual sustenance. But here's the really crucial part. The destruction of the bison, it wasn't just a side effect of westward expansion. It was a calculated military strategy. The U.S. government knew that to control the Plains nations, they had to destroy their most vital resource. The logic was brutal. To destroy the people, first you had to destroy the buffalo. The numbers on this slide just tell the whole story. In just 40 years, the bison population collapses from 20 million to less than 1,000. At the exact same time, look at the other numbers. The settler population skyrockets and the miles of railroad track explode. It's a clear and brutal equation. As the infrastructure of the new America grew, the foundation of the old one was being systematically wiped off the map. So what happens when that physical line of the frontier, that line on the map, disappears? Well, it doesn't just vanish. It becomes something else entirely. It becomes a kind of ghost that haunts the national identity. And that moment, it came in 1890. The U.S. Census Bureau made it official. They declared the frontier closed. For the first time, there was no longer a clear advancing line of American settlement. The physical conquest was, for all intents and purposes, complete. And right at that moment, the frontier transformed. It stopped being a place you could point to on a map, and it became an idea, a myth, in the American mind. This idea of the rugged individual, of endless new horizons, of taming the wild, that became a core part of the national identity, a story that we still tell ourselves today. Which leaves us with one last, really challenging question to chew on. When we tell the story of the American frontier, what are we really talking about? Are we talking about a place that was tamed, or a people who were broken? The answer we choose says an awful lot about the story we want to believe.